Welcome to After the Pool, the video series where I share all my thoughts and opinions on the rest of the comic books for the current comic book week. Now, if you guys want to see all my thoughts on the newest issue 1 comic books, check out Worthy Ones, that is released every Thursday, and I'll leave last week's episode at the end of this episode. I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you love daily comic book content and you love me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, you came to the right place. So before we get started, guys, I just got to give a quick shout out to a current Kickstarter that is going on. With only 5 days left to go on this Kickstarter, we got CALICO Street Math Book 1. This is done by Sigma Comics, written by H.H. Germain. If you guys never heard of this series before, it's absolutely awesome. They released issues 1 through 8 in floppies, and now they're releasing it in a 240-page trade paperback. It's here, guys. Remember, 5 days left to go. This book is absolutely awesome. Hector Gill is the Calico, the ultimate defender of animals. He hates bullies and, worst of all, those who abuse and murder innocent animals. He has access to highly advanced technology and help from a vast network of globally dispersed operatives. He brings the bad guys to justice and puts an end to their animal abuse permanently. I love animals, guys, and so when you have a hero that defends those animals, that's great. We got some cool comments here from some of the comic book greats. We have an authentic labor of love like no other, said Jim Steranko. We have the whole package. It's very impressive from Klaus Johnson. And then you're doing good work here, HH, from Mike Barron. So if you guys want to throw a few dollars towards this project to make sure it gets funded, go ahead, back it today. Calico Street Math Book 1, 240 pages, guys. I think you can pay like $30 and pick this bad boy up, and there's some great rewards here as well. All right, so here we go. It's the speed round. Some of the books that were pretty good, but I don't need to spend so much time on every book. So the first one we're talking about is Miles Morales, Spider-Man, issue 24. Miles Morales is still a vampire right now, and he has this lust, and his venom blast is preventing him from, like, eating people, right? So in this issue, he is doing battle against Vulture, and he beats the crap out of him, and Vulture's granddaughter is kind of like, Miles, like, what's going on with you? And it looks like he finally tells the truth, and the Vulture's pissed off, and now he gets a new suit. How that guy is not dead yet, who knows? But nevertheless, pretty cool book. I definitely will always recommend Miles Morales Spider-Man. The next book we're going to talk about is another Spider book, and this is The Spectacular Spider-Man. This is issue 7. Now, when it comes to this series, I've said it many times before, I'm not a huge fan of it as of right now. I wasn't digging the current story arc, and we had Miles and Peter team up to do battle against, like, Arcade and Mentalo, and now they got this crazy creature that's in charge of the whole, I don't know, AI thing, and they do battle and they win. Very forgettable story. No one is going to remember this book after this issue. So I'm going to say, don't pick this up. I love Humberto Ramos's artwork, don't get me wrong. But honestly, when it gets to issue 8, that's going to be the determining factor for me if I continue this series or not. The next book we're talking about is Venom War Spider-Man issue 2. What's going on with this book? This is the story of Spider-Man teaming up with Jackpot before he gets to the wrestling arena in Venom War. So that's how loosely this whole thing ties in. We wind up getting to see this one kind of be more like Spider-Man and Venom in the movies, right? Kind of like that. Jackpot's kind of annoying. Paul is kind of annoying. I hate how there's this power dampener on Jackpot's gauntlets, so she can just be like, spin again, spin again, spin again until I get the right power. Freaking lame. That creates no stakes at all when it comes to this comic book in general. So I'm going to also say pass on this one. Greg Land artwork is not bad. Next, we're going to talk about Gunslinger Spawn, issue 35. This book is actually always good. I love it. But for me, this particular issue was very much filler. There's nothing here that really progresses the story, but it does give you an insight of kind of like what the character has been through. And the reason why they're showing you this is because Javier is in some medically induced coma, and they're like, how can he live through all this stuff? And you get to see everything that happened in Javier's brain while he's in this coma. Pretty cool book, great artwork as always. Let's hope now the story goes a little bit forward. Okay, next is Scarlet. This is issue 4. Penultimate issue here, Kelly Thompson's book. Listen, it's not a bad book. However, it is the weakest book in the Energon universe, and it's kind of just like there for me. There's nothing here that's taken me to the next level, unlike all the other Energon books. We get to see some action with Storm Shadow in this one. We get to see Scarlet meet up with Jinx once again. She's been deep undercover for 2 years, and the weapon that they're acquiring could actually help them. And you know, it's just a book that's kind of there for me. Not bad, not great. If you've been reading Energon Universe stuff and you feel like you want to follow everything, then pick it up. If not, I think it's kind of a pass. It's not integral. All right, and the last book that we're talking about today in the speed round is going to be Batman issue 152, Absolute Power tie-in. This issue wasn't nearly as strong as the last one, as we get to see the Bat and the Cat work together trying to escape. The artwork is kind of flat for me. They got this boom tube, or no, they got this mother box. They went through a boom tube. They escaped Darkseid, and it kind of boggles my mind a little bit. It seemed like Catwoman in this issue didn't even know who Darkseid actually was. So a little weird for me. Wasn't a horrible issue, but it wasn't as strong as the previous one. Overall, Absolute Power tie-ins, pretty solid, but this was a weaker one. Now it's time for the books that I want to go a little bit more in depth with. And the first one we're talking about is kind of an underrated book, I think. And this is Spider-Boy issue 11. Not only is this a book where I can read it, but I would say my younger daughter could read it, probably a 7 or 8-year-old could read it, and I think it's a very enjoyable book, and I think Dan Slott's doing a bang-up job at really fleshing out this character, okay? He got introduced to like a Edge of Spider-Verse event. No one remembered what happened to him or who he was and how he was connected to Spider-Man. That all got resolved in the past couple of issues. Now Bailey Briggs is remembered, and even his mom remembers him. This is a 32-page comic for the price of $5. The artwork in this book is actually really nice. It's bright, it's colorful, it's vibrant. There's great facial expressions in this comic book. And like I said, this was a book about Bailey Briggs just going into everyday life. It's nice to see his mom remember who he is. He feels like that he should still do superhero stuff, and his mom's like, no way, it's too dangerous, there's all these other superheroes out there, and she tries to just throw him into everyday life, and it's a little bit of a struggle. And then what happens is there's this mission that happens. He sees the future. He goes on this mission. He saves the day, and his mom has this epiphany like, oh my gosh, he is doing much good for the community here, and that's my son, and she's super proud of him. And I really like that. It's a really feel-good comic book. And again, I think the character is coming into its own. We get a villain at the end of this where you're kind of like, oh wow, that's kind of awesome. Let's see where this goes. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give this one a solid B. This is a great read. It's very enjoyable, and it continues to deliver. So I'll always recommend right now Spider-Boy. Venom War. This is issue 2, 32-page comic for the price of $5. Now, I read the first issue, and I'm like, oh, this is not that great. Now I read the second issue and I felt this one was a lot better. The setting of this comic book is a little weird. Writer here is Al Ewing and the art is done by Carlos Naito. The artwork in this book is actually really good. We get to see the futuristic Meredith in here, who is posing as like a Roxxon or, you know, one of the other buildings or affiliates that's, you know, in the Spider-Man universe. We get to see Misery in this comic book. There's a lot of different characters in this one. And what makes this one actually cool is that we wind up seeing the battle at hand and we see Meredith's plan in place on what he's going to do. And in case you're not sure who he is, he's like an evil Eddie Brock from the future, and he just calls himself Meredith. That's his, you know, altered identity or whatever it is. And then you get to see the other side of things as we get to see this version of Eddie Brock, who is Bedlam here. They kind of fight, right? So Spider-Man, Bedlam fight, and it takes place in a wrestling arena, which is hilarious. And we get to see, you know, Spider-Man caution on certain sides of things, and he feels like he should be the holder of the symbiote. So then you just wind up seeing this whole fight. You wind up seeing Eddie combined with the Bedlam symbiote, and then he winds up eating like his allies in the whole thing, and it gets like super grotesque. So like this part right here, they fight and he eats his other symbiotes and he becomes super huge. So this book was just fun. I thought it was better. And then Dylan becomes something completely different at the end of this. I'm not going to show you it, but he calls himself the Prince in Black. So it is kind of silly, but at the same time, I had fun with it. Carnage is also in this book, so yes, it makes sense why they call it the Venom War. So this one was good. I'm going to give this one a B-. Definitely better than the last issue. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. Absolute Power. This is issue 3. This one's 40 pages for the price of $5. This one is written by Mark Waid and Dan Mora. Now, Absolute Power has been a pretty solid book. However, when it comes to this particular issue, they pack a lot into this comic book. The art is really good. Dan Mora is top-notch when it comes to the art. And my favorite character in this, believe it or not, is the Brainiac Queen. Whenever she makes an appearance in this comic book, I love seeing her. She's such like this cool like enemy, this like robotic threat, you know, and something happens to her in this comic to where you're just like, oh man, I wish that this did not happen already. But I feel like when it comes to the comic book, certain things have to start turning in the hero's favor a little bit, right? So here's another picture of that Brainiac Queen. Like, I really like that. But something happens to her in this issue where you're just like, shit. Like, really? We're getting to that point already? Because I really do like when the villains win and they get the upper hands and then the heroes suffer a little bit, right? Nightwing is kind of like the leader of everything. I do like the way he is written in this book, and you love seeing all the different cast of characters as they are defending Paradise Island here because they feel like their cloaking technology or how they can't get discovered is pretty top-notch against Kryptonian and other people. There is a battle, right? And certain things happen. I don't want to spoil that. We do find out that there is more flaws in the Mazo robots as well. So again, not everything is going Amanda Waller's way in this particular issue. And there's some cool things. And we get to see some revelation here with John Kemp because he's under the Brainiac Queen's influence. This book, though, like I said, nothing wrong with it. It took me about 40 minutes to read because, again, there's a lot that is accomplished in this comic book. So you got to really take your time and read it. But at the end of the day, it was really good. But we're getting to the point now where certain things are starting to wrap up. And I think it's going to go in the hero's favor. So I think I'm going to give this one an A-. Again, I really enjoyed it. I can't fault a book that I feel is very well written. Just take your time on reading it. Don't rush it because obviously then you're going to forget or miss key elements of the story. Uncanny Valley, this is issue 5, one of the surprise books of the year, guys. 28 pages for the price of $5. This one is written by Tony Fleece, and the art and colorist is done by Dave Watcher. This book is absolutely awesome. You can always expect fantastic art. Definitely feels like you're in a cartoon in this particular issue. And in this one, we wind up getting to see the battle between the first Oliver, who is the main character, his mother, his grandfather, just everybody. And obviously Oliver has to be sacrificed in order to accomplish whatever it is that these cartoons want in this world, right? And we get to see the mom try to protect the son, and she winds up using her abilities as well. Just a really good, exciting, action-packed adventure. One of the coolest elements in this comic is that there's this paint where it can erase other cartoons. They can't be killed, but they can be erased. And what Oliver does at the end of this is kind of surprising, and you're kind of thinking, holy shit, what's happening to our main character? Where does he go? And that made it for a very, very interesting cliffhanger. Like I said, definitely recommend this book, guys. This one is an A. This one has delivered each and every issue, just something different that you don't always see in comics, and that's what makes independent comic books really good. Spawn issue 356, 24 pages, almost said 28 pages, 24 pages for the price of $2.99. The artwork is really good in this comic book here. Great facial expressions. Always love the paneling in these comics. Check out this character right here. Awesome angel-like character. And what can you expect out of this one? Well, this one is about the new character that we saw a couple issues ago by the name of Lara. Lara? L-Y-R-A. Lara. Lara. Okay. Anyway, it's like, how many times can I say it, right? Anyway, when it comes to the character, there she is, okay? Young girl. You get to see the origin story told by her to Spawn, because this is a character that you were introduced a couple issues ago who still had her powers. Now, if you've been reading Spawn, the dead zones are expanded. None of the Spawns, none of Heaven's characters have powers. None of Hell's characters have powers, and everybody's lost. The only people that can seem to take over the world are the vampires, and this chick is still running around with freaking powers. Well, in this origin story, we wind up finding out she is like a crossbreed, right? A mother was Hell and the father was an angel, and they had relations, and that's what you get. You get a mutt. And she still has all these powers, and one day she goes into the room and she sees her dad doing something very grotesque to an enemy, and she's like, oh my god, and she freaks out. And from that point on, you wind up seeing the dad tell the story to her. She eventually comes to age, she gets her powers, and her dad takes her under her wing, and you go from there when it comes to this book. Really great story. I love how we're still getting new characters, obviously 356 issues into Spawn, and they're interesting characters. So my hat's off to Rory McConville for writing such a great origin story for this character. For me, it's almost like maybe an Angela 2.0, right? But good stuff here. She is a relatable character as well. So awesome book. Definitely recommend it. At the end of the day, I'm giving this one an A. This was a page turner for me. I did not want to put it down, and hopefully we will see a lot more of this character in the future. The Ultimates. This is issue 4, 32-page comic for the price of $5. Written by Denise Camp, and the art is Phil Noto. Guys, really, like, when it comes to the storytelling in this comic book, I think it's absolutely phenomenal. I'm not the biggest fan of Phil Noto's artwork personally. My opinion here, I feel like you could get more detailed artists on this book, but it does the job. It tells the story well, but I would have loved to see more detail in this comic, especially when it comes to a specific point when Reed Richards is being tortured in this comic. Decent facial expressions though, so like it does the job. I love the colors on this comic as it focuses on certain tones and maybe things that are going on in the book. So brilliant in that aspect, right? Now, what this story has entail is just everything that has happened to the Fantastic Four and why Reed Richards is Doom, and you wind up getting to see that torture that he went through from the Maker, and you're just like beside yourself when you're reading this comic book, and you're like, oh my God, please release this poor man, you know? And we can see the suffering that and the PTSD that Reed is going through even after the fact. And again, as the reader, when you're reading this, you're just like, Jesus, man, you can see why, you know, Doom is the way that he is in this comic. Where this book is actually going, don't know 100% yet, but I do like how we get introduced to all these different characters, because I think when the Maker does make his return, it's going to be this all-out brawl, all-out battle, and at least we're going to know who all these Ultimate characters actually are. I gotta give this one an A as well, just because the artwork wasn't like my style, top-notch, nitpicking for me. Story-wise, definitely an A+. I don't see anything wrong with the Ultimates, guys. I think this is a great story right now. Rook Exodus, this is issue 5, a 32-page comic for the price of $4, written by Jeff Johns. Jason Fabok does the artwork, and I said that Rook Exodus was going to be my last read of the week, and I definitely held out. It was the last comic book I read, and guys, it did not disappoint. When you get the artwork in this comic book, look at that, man. That's Pumbaa, right? That's Swine's old sidekick, because he was like in charge of like the boars and the pigs and stuff like that. And in this issue, this one is focused around Rook. And Rook is obviously the main character. He was basically left for dead at the end of the last issue, I think falling off a waterfall, and it looks like he was saved by Pumbaa, okay? And he wakes up and the dude is like talking to him, or the pig, I should say, is talking to him. And he's like, what's wrong with me, you know? But as you read the issue, we wind up finding out that it's kind of like a flight or fight response situation that goes on. So does does Pumbaa actually talk to him or not? You'll have to read the issue. But very detailed in the artwork, even in the lettering and the word bubbles and everything else is really awesome. And again, you just get to see everything that Rook has gone through, whether it was back on the farm when the farm caught on fire, to the point of him escaping, trying to save Pumbaa in this issue. Just a really good, fantastic issue, just revolved around one character. And I love how this book can go back and forth from the main character to all the other cast of characters and just not skip a beat, man. It's so entertaining. Love each and every issue. And then in the next issue, this is cool. We get this. Like, come on, dude. You get like a little fold-out poster at the end of this book. This is fantastic. If I was a kid, I would rip this out and freaking hang that shit on my wall, dude. That is such a sick book. Always my favorite book. I mean, listen, you can't, like, some people be like, well, you're just biased towards a book. No, this book is just the total package. Like, everything about it, man. Each and every time it comes out. Fan-freaking-tastic. A+. Top pick of the week for me. Ultimates was a close second, but this is just phenomenal all the way around. The artwork is what really separates this and Ultimates. So there you guys have it. There are my thoughts on this week's comic books. Hopefully you guys agree on some of them. If not, I want to hear in the comments below. And of course, guys, I'm going to leave you that Worthy Ones episode where I talk about this past week's new issue ones. And I'm going to leave you kind of a really emotional video in case you guys did not see that one. You got to watch it all the way through. So I'll leave you that one as well. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Support the local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting, but always remember, read those comics so we have great comic conversation like this. Guys, I'll see you real soon. Bye.